Ding! Hello everyone and welcome back to the Sexy Geeky Podcast. This one is just me this time, which is even more relaxed. This will be nice and small on one of the few days off I tend to get these days at my own pace. I remember to record this one ages ago, after the Thoughtful convention in Leeds, which is my favourite convention in the UK that I've gone to, and I love it and definitely was excited to go again. I was there helping Dr. Geof Banyard, a old friend of mine. Wow, a very old friend of mine now, I suppose, from my radio days. I interviewed him at London Expo one year for the Geek Show radio program I used to do, and then again the next time I saw him, and then again when I saw him at Lincoln Asylum, the steampunk revival, and then again when I saw him at Expo again. And after a while I was like, oh, wait, if you take the microphone away, is this what friends do? Is that what we're doing? And he was like, yeah, that sounds about right. And so we hung out as normal people without a microphone. And now I do his online coding and web shop deliveries, which has been pretty crazy this month because it's December, and update his webcomic, The Adventures of Fetish Man and Lactose Intolerant Boy, which is about as brilliant and ridiculous as it sounds. It's a parody, commentary, fun exploration through sex and kinks. Each issue is dedicated to a kink or some kind of parody, such as British newspapers. In one of them, the extreme pornography laws in the banned issue number 7, which I think is my favourite. It's just really weird, fun stuff, featuring a guy in a gimp suit who may or may not have any special powers and tries to quote-unquote save the day sometimes, if it needs saving at all, but falls over a lot and can't access his arms because he's in a restrictive suit. It's very funny. But I was helping sell that, as well as his various patches steampunky wears, pewter pins that he makes himself because he wanted to, and he does that kind of thing, so why not? And prints. Big, beautiful prints. Honestly, it's surprisingly hard to describe what Geof does. You might want to go to islandofdrgeof.co.uk, and that's the hub there, linking to everything that he does do. Steampunk, sciencey, smutty, or otherwise. But I was helping him on a table, and Michael came with me as well. We were both helping out. And as much as Thought Bubble was a super busy convention with some lovely people who we got to see and chat to, some old friends of mine, some new friends we made, I also did get a few chances to get away from the table and buy things, beautiful things, and catch up with comic creators that I love to pieces. So this is basically going to be a haul podcast. All the things I bought, plus a few things that I didn't buy, but I met the people who make or saw them again, as I do try to whenever I get the chance. Because I have friends I only get to see like once or twice a year at specific conventions that tailor to their actual interests. Which is, it's not sad, it's just kind of interesting. I live a lot closer to some of them now that I'm further down south, so who knows, I might actually meet up with people outside of cons. When doing Thought Bubble, especially if you're a trader, it is best to go in there with like a list of people you definitely want to see, so that when you get in, you can find them on the map, you can highlight them, and you can maybe have some chance of finding them, because there have been years at Thought Bubble and at MCM where I've just not been able to figure out where people are. Because it doesn't look complicated or maze-like when nobody's in. When you're setting up, everything looks really easy and laid out. It's like an old Bomberman game. But then, when everyone's in, it becomes this weird labyrinth, multi-dimensional, with people everywhere that you have to navigate, and so it's like the walls are moving. It's like trying to navigate Harry Potter staircases, if they were also shoving and often holding a lot of items they don't want to get crushed or smooshed. And a few on my list definitely find. I wanted to find the Batgirl creative team if I could. 3/4 of them anyway. Babs Tarr, Brendan Fletcher, and Camron Stewart. Partly so I could get my issue 35 signed, which I was, you know, I don't know about signatures these days. I hang out with a lot of people. I just like buying their products, so sometimes I want to get things signed, sometimes I'm not too sure, but I kind of wanted to get this one signed as an excuse to say, hi Babs, your work is amazing, I can't wait to get the statuette of Batgirl, she's so damn awesome now. Hi Brendan, your writing's really good, please keep going. Also, here's my copy of Gotham Academy if you could do that as well. And I figured that if I did it on the Sunday rather than the Saturday, I might have enough time to not be a fangirling pile of mush by the time I eventually found them. which didn't quite work out. Other people on the list was definitely Kieran Gillen, and it was Jamie McKelvey, creators of the Young Avengers, and I brought all my copies of the Young Avengers trades to get those signed and to thank them for being super awesome people. And Natasha Allegri, because she was the super big guest person this year. For those who don't know, oh my god, Google her. She is a creator of Being Puppy Cats, the super awesome Cartoon Hangover series, which has just started its own actual series. It was an animated short, and then, well, 2 animated shorts, and then people loved it so much it kickstarted and went crazy good, and the first series is so much fun. It is so cute. And she also made Fiona and Cake, which is the gender-flipped spin-off series, parallel series of Pendleton Ward's Adventure Time, which is amazing. I mean, that's been animated as well. There are comics out there which are super, super good. The Bro Knight comic is definitely my favorite. And she was just super lovely. She wasn't even selling anything. She was just doing signatures and sketches for people, and you could tip her if you wanted, and she's the sweetest thing. And she's doing loads of panels, because at Double they get amazing guests, but they really need to put them into panels so that, you know, they can kind of justify the budgets of getting people across from America. Yay, America. It's so far away that Kate Leth couldn't come this year, and that makes me sad, because they only discovered Kate Leth within the last year, really, which is my bad. We were probably at the same convention at some point, from the way she talks about Thor Bubble, and I just didn't know. I didn't know. It took until Night Vale pointed me towards Kate or Die, which pointed me towards the Comics Alliance comics she makes, which then pointed me towards Seeing Red, and then I realised, oh my god, she does the Adventure Time comics, and I bought them, and they're really, really good. Breathe, Harry. I should do a whole episode on Kate Leth, honestly. She's working on so many really, really good things. So, first day where I had a proper chance to go do things was Sunday, because I had no money and the cash machine was empty. That is a major thing about Thor Ball if you ever go. Bring cash to the venue, because there was a 1 cash machine to buy. It is at a Tesco's little supermarket thing, which is brilliantly placed so you can actually get food during the event. But the cash machine always breaks or empties or isn't working. This is the 2nd year in a row where it happened right at the beginning, before the convention even started. So I had to get some money out on Saturday night to bring into town so I could actually buy anything, but I had a lot of browsing on Saturday at least, so I was ready and primed, as was Mike, to just go and buy all the things, all the beautiful things. So first thing, Sunday morning, I queued up for Natasha Allegri. I was first in the queue, and there was literally no one there, so I visited her neighbour, Danielle Corsetto of Girls with Slingshots, who's currently doing like a massive tour to celebrate her 10-year anniversary, which is awesome and amazing. But I've heard of Girls with Slingshots. Don't kill me. I've never read it. I wanted to. I went there to buy one, but there was some kind of issue with one of her boxes, and she sold out or didn't have any by Sunday at all. So she just covered it in her business cards and sat behind wanting to chat to people, which was super cool. A friend of mine, a certain friend who helps at a certain convention, gave me a letter to give to her. It was just an envelope with some details. Apparently she knew already what it was, and so I was like, oh, I'll just hand this over, and then that'll be nice and simple. Everything will make sense. And I opened up the envelope, and there was a Christmas card for me, and inside of it there was a thing saying, this bit's to Danielle. So I was like, oh, sorry, put that to one side, gave her the letter, and she opened the envelope, and inside was not what I would call a letter. It's what historians would call a trifolded tome, a testament of some kind. So lengthy that we were there like, I thought this would be like a short commission detail or something. She was like, I thought so as well. This is really, I can't do this now. I don't even know what this, I have to read so much. There's other people. It's like, I know, I'll try to come back later. And I never did. I never managed. It's, we were talking over Twitter. The guy who gave me the thing to give to her, and herself and me, and I was like, I'm so sorry I never got to come back, I had a table to run. She was like, oh, you did a table? God, well done getting away at all, because that's the thing, sometimes you don't ever get to leave your table, especially if you're big, like Danielle Corsetto. I mean, I only managed to because we had like 4 people on the table at one point, so we were able to actually nip out and do tea breaks and toilet breaks and buying breaks and actually enjoy the convention. If you are doing a con, definitely don't go it alone. You want to be able to sell things, but you also want to be able to, like, go to the toilet and buy sandwiches and survive like a human. When I went to go back to the queue for Natasha Allegri, who I should probably clarify, the queue was very short, but she was not there yet because of traffic problems, because there's always this big fun run thing, apparently, that's going on at the same time as Thought Bubble every single year, so she couldn't get in very easily, and then she had to go off to a panel, and yeah. The queue was entirely people who were trading as well, who'd come in using their wristbands super early to be able to get stuff from her and meet her, and then pop off back to their own tables. But I was no longer first. I was after Jocelyn Fenton, who makes Hemlock. Now, I'd heard of Hemlock before. I can't for the life of me remember where. But it's a super cool series about, it's a fairy tale set in the forests of 19th century Scandinavia, says the blurb. And it's all about folklore and witches and frog people and spells. It's really interesting. I'm liking it. I end up going back to her table later and buying 3 volumes. That was the last thing I bought, and then I looked at my wallet, which was totally empty, and then I looked towards the Firelight Isle by Paul Duffield. I was like, oh no, Paul, I can't buy your new thing. I have no money left. I will see you at MCM. And I felt like such a douche. I could have said nothing, but I decided to say that. Why? Why would I say something that embarrassing? So me and Justin hung out at the front of the queue for a while, chatting about Natasha and Bean Puppy Cat, and then we chatted to the 2 people behind us as well, and there was 4 of us, just kind of hanging out, really. I always feel like a bit of a piggy in the middle. I always feel about like a bit of an odd one out in these circumstances, because I'm usually surrounded by artists and writers, like artists, writers, indie people who do both, to amazing extents that I cannot possibly fathom. And they're like, no, I write a thing that's in development, and I do someone's website, but mostly I just like cons. I feel like such a cheat. Although I am working on drawing something. This is not about me, this podcast. This is about awesome people such as Justin Fenton, and I totally recommend you check out Hemlock. I've read the 3 volumes now that I bought. Love, love, love. You can find it at hemlock.smackjeeves.com. It updates Fridays. It's really, 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 really good. And the art style is so nice. The costumes are gorgeous. I have a very strong temptation to cosplay Lumi, with her big round eyes and her big green dress thing and apron. She looks really cool. And amazing earrings. They're all amazing designs and fashion. Eventually, it was clear that whenever Natasha arrived, she'd have to go off to her panel immediately, so I went back to the table. But other things I managed to get over the course of the convention include the new issue of Imaginary Gumbo by Dumpy Little Robot, which is Demon Tomato Dave from off of YouTube, and Abby Ryder from Travelling Man Manchester. I don't know, it's not like a British Kate Leth. She works in a comic shop and now has started doing comics as well, because she is really good at comics. Like, really good. Who knows? I've got all 3 issues of Dumpy Little Robot's Imaginary Gumbo now, and it is the sweetest story about a little kid named Charlie Hodges, aged 8.5, and their imaginary friend Gumbo, who's a giant knight with a giant magical sword, and their adventures through Charlie's imagination and dealing with things. It's got fights with giant rampaging guinea pigs, and dealing with loss, and a mad scientist who isn't evil, who has a giant light bulb for a head, and switches out his light bulb to have different types of bulbs. It's pretty amazing like that. The new story is called Charlie Hodges, age 8.5, and there's crayon over the word Gumbo because he isn't in this for the most part. And the skeleton in the garden, and it's really interesting. It builds up the world a lot more. It's thicker. It was slightly more expensive, which is awesome always to see. It's a little bit bigger than the other issues. There's more pages, and it's in beautiful full color, and the art style is so cute. I love the way that Abby draws lines and hair. There's so much not like sketchy, but colored sketchy. It's really cool and gorgeous. And it builds up a lot of backstory as to how the world even works, with Charlie and an army of skeletons, and where does Gumbo live? What does Gumbo do? What do they do in this imaginary world? Imaginary worlds need structure, and it works when you have it. As far as I'm aware, you can't yet read Imaginary Gumbo online, but you can buy it from the Dumpy Little Robot store at dumpylittlерobot.com. It's so cute, the logo and the comic as well. And the comic's only £3.50, which is incredibly good value, you know, and it's totally all ages, totally safe for kids, totally safe for work. Just give it a try. Go on. It's really, really nice. Although start with the 2 previous issues, because that actually has Gumbo in it, and Gumbo's pretty awesome. Pretty, awesome. He's pretty, and he's awesome, and he's pretty awesome. Because of the good positioning, I bumped into Ali and Emily quite a few times, which is awesome. Alice Nuttall. Oh, now Dr. Alice Nuttall. Congratulations. And Emily Brady, who make Footloose, which is a pulp parody of manga and anime in a comic. Sort of. It's really interesting. There's this fantasy school, which our main character, Kitty, who has inherited primary protagonist syndrome from her mother, has to go to learn the ways of combat in one of the 4 different schools of this academy, such as indiscriminate whacking with oversized weaponry, which is basically people with giant Soul Calibur-esque swords smacking things to pieces. And then there's magical girls, except for Jerry, who's a magical boy, who is pretty awesome. And she gets enrolled in Kung Shu, which is fighting styles using footwear. And it's really interesting and weird, and the art's really good, and it's whereas some genre parodies would insult things by referencing them, Footloose revels in the madness and the joy that you get from a lot of more brainless anime. But it gives it a brain behind it as well. It makes a surprisingly complex and interesting narrative around how magic and the Fae work, and how the different magical races interact, and it's good. It's just really good. And if you go to footloosecomic.com, you can actually read it online. This is one of those weird ones where, for some reason, it's entirely online, and it's more up-to-date online, probably, but I only read it in the printed form. I keep buying it from them, and I don't know why I don't read it online. I'm so skinned. I've kind of just made a habit of it now, which is weird. But I like it. I'm not going back, definitely. I've also bought the t-shirts and the underwear. Those are the things of merchandise they make. Sue me. It says Pirate Fairy on the back of them with the awesome winged skull and crossbones. And they did that before Tinkerbell did it. I have to point that out. So I did manage to find the Batgirl creative team, and I got really sort of lucky because they were about to go to a panel, and so there was no queue left. But they were about to head out, and I was like, oh my god, I'm a dealer, please, I'll never get a chance. Again, can you please sign this thing? And they were all just super lovely people. And Babs was like, yeah, sure, why not? And I looked at her very expensive prints, which were honestly totally worth the price. They looked so good. You may have seen her work on Tumblr. She's the one who made the Bosozoku Sailor Scouts, if that's how you say it. Bosozoku. I'll put a link down below, but you can find it at babsbabsbabs.com. And she is on fire at the moment, Babs is, because this is her first, like, published printed work thing, and she redesigned Batgirl and is doing loads of art, and she isn't normally used to doing sequential stuff, as she says on Less Than Live with Kato Dai, which I'll link to as well, because that's an amazing podcast. And that's where I heard about Babs and where I heard about Brendan Fletcher. Batgirl's Awesome Team has Babs on designs and art, Camron Stewart on art and writing, and Brendan Fletcher on writing. Yes, there's a lot of crossing over into different areas there. It's usually a sign because someone's multi-talented, which is why indie comics work so damn well. After Kate plugged them both, I was like, well, I may as well check it out. And I read the new Batgirl number 35, and I loved it. And now I have 36, and now I have 37, and I've also got Gotham Academy 1, 2, and 3, which is also done by Brendan. And yeah, I've no regrets whatsoever. Loving it. But Babs signed it while I was saying, oh my god, I was saying how much I loved her on Kate or Die. And that I really like her work, and I can't wait to get the statuette, and I'm so happy for her having a statuette already this early in her career. And then I kind of ducked under some rope because there was absolutely no one else queuing, and asked Brendan to do the same. I just untucked both of the plastic envelopes my comics were in, and just pulled them off like a tablecloth, and they were down at the table, and I was like, please, could you sign these, please? Would you like some gingerbread? Because I brought gingerbread with me that I made into the shapes of certain people's characters. Yeah, that was interesting, and they tweeted it. It was fun. But he took some to go to the panel with. I think, if I'm remembering correctly. And then I made a horrible faux pas by reading the wrong name sign and going to another person from the team, and I got their name wrong, and it was super embarrassing. And then they went off to a panel, and I felt like a jerk. Yeah, I felt really bad. He signed the comic anyway, but I felt like an arse, and there was absolutely no time to correct the mistake. And Batgirl and Gotham Academy are super good, though. I'm so happy that DC is still letting certain people hire these creative teams and be like, here is this character. Do with her what you will. We know your work is good. I will trust you. Which is great, because remember the last series I left from DC was Batwoman, which has recently been cancelled for not being very good anymore. I am very sad to say, in the corner of my tiny mouth, because Batwoman Elegy was so good. And it was Greg Rucka and J.H. Williams III, and then they got told to rewrite several plot lines for the new series when it came out as the New 52 in its own series. And then Greg Rucka left the project, and then J.H. Williams III. And the new series with W. Hayden Blackman kind of phased. It's difficult when they were being told to rewrite elements a lot, and they had too many on-the-spot changes and sudden changes, and too many weird things they were being told. Contrary to popular belief, Batwoman was not disallowed from marrying her girlfriend at some point, because they're both ladies, which is awesome to see represented. But it was because DC thinks that superheroes should never, ever get married, and now there's a rule that no superheroes will in their storylines, which to me sounds totally stupid. Like, I'm all for the idea of showing that superheroes have to commit to the anonymity and commit to these separate roles and separating their personal life and their private life. Those are the same thing. Separating their professional life and their personal life and their aliases. I'm totally down with that. But surely the point is that they all tackle it differently. That some people can only do one-night stands. That some people do relationships where they have to keep someone else in the dark and they have to be patient and nice and good about it. Like, I loved the struggle in Elegy and some of the early New 52 run, where the identity of Batwoman, Kate Kane, had difficulties with her girlfriend because they were both super busy, and as someone who is super busy all the time, when you get home and the other person is still busy, you notice. And she began to question where she had been, and she kind of had a bit of a breakdown because she couldn't keep holding secrets, but she still kept the secret. She just had a breakdown and powered through it, and it's actually, like, it was really sad to watch the two of them, like, struggle this much. And then they dropped that plotline, which is crazy sad. And she's now in a hypnotic, very creepy, debatably non-consensual relationship with a vampire. Look, I understand the series getting dropped. Okay? I'm not happy, considering that it was so good, but it makes a lot of sense. See, this is why I read a lot of indie comics, because with indie comics, it's usually written and drawn by the same team, if not the same person, throughout its entire existence. And then, if it's super good and other people want to take a crack at it, then you get things like fan books, like the Teaching Animal official fan book, which is coming soon, which I'm so excited for, which has some Corey Michelle in it, and excitement. But with these Marvel and DC titles, it's really, you get attached to a character, you really do, but you can't, because someone else will write them eventually. And sometimes it'll be someone super awesome, like Alan Moore, and sometimes it was someone super not awesome, like Frank Miller. And so it's like, I love Batman, that doesn't mean anything. Batman is a vessel for other people to write their own biases through, which does make sense, but the scale of who writes what is so varied that it's unpredictable. You cannot predict liking something if it gets revived. You have to hope. And this is why podcasts like Kate's One Less Than Live are so good, because it says, hey, this person is currently writing this title for this publisher, and it's really good right now, and you should check it out. You have to wait for good writers to make their appearance far more than good characters to remake their appearances. Which is sad, but it happens. Which is why I think we got so lucky with Young Avengers, because The first and second wave of those comics are totally different, but both awesome. They've grown up and become somewhat different people, but they are still visible as deriving from the same people, and everything makes sense, and it's lovely. And I was so happy that I got to meet Kieran Gillen and Jamie McKelvey and get those copies signed. And then I also bought from Travelling Man in Town The Wicked and the Divine, the first trade of their new one with Vertigo, of their new one with Image Comics, which is totally separate and really, really good, about a cycle of gods, 12 gods, who come back, take over the bodies of young people every large number of years. And they are loved, they are hated, and within 2 years they are dead. They are muses, they are all performers of some kind, and it's really interesting. And the first volume focuses on the audience's surrogate and their relationship and friendship, dubious, with Lucy, Luci, who is the embodiment of Lucifer, who is a singer and a super cool androgynous person with amazing nails and is very tricksy and false. It's really cool. The whole thing just has so many different like devils and ulterior motives going for it. It can be. I don't think I'm going to be able to follow it completely until the entire thing comes out, maybe, and then I get someone else to read it and explain it to me better. But I'm loving it. I'm really enjoying it. And I also bought, which I've not read yet because I have a giant pile still to go through. I know it was in November, but there's a lot happening. Phonogram, which is their super old thing now, but still gorgeous. I love Jamie McKelvey's artwork. It's so fresh looking and like somewhere between simplistic and detailed. It's like pop art. I keep thinking it's just like pop music and pop art. And given how much all these different books relate to music as a key thing, I can see if like pop music was meant to be an influence in there, which is super cool. I also gave Kieran some gingerbread, and had a lovely little chat about why Hulkling is awesome, and why the coming out scene of spoiler, our bisexual character was really important and well done, and it was a really interesting discussion. He had like a medium-sized queue that kind of went around a corner. He was on an end, so it was well thought through. The Thought Bubble do try to think things through and adjust as well as they can when a giant queue start to form around certain people. But it was because he tried to actually have a little chat with each person who came across. He was really cool, nice and sweet guy. It was nice talking to him. And yeah, I thanked him for writing that scene the way he wrote it, with absolutely definitely a bisexual character, because Mike is bi and we both fucking hate bi erasure. It's just what's like the worst. It was super cool and he was super happy and we exchanged gingerbread, and then I saw that from the pile of presents he got given, he had like a whole like big lunch in gifts to put to one side. And I was happy to provide dessert, which is super cool. Some books that I don't have on me right now, because I lent them to Geof because they were so up his wheelhouse and alleyway, would be the Dead Queen Detectives, Volume 1, or Issue 1, which I got from Improper Books. Now, Improper Books, they made a really good one-shot thing, which I picked up last year, I believe, called Porcelain. And it is gorgeous. It's this gothic fairy tale about alchemy and automatons, and in a way the nature of death and loss and grieving and how not to do it. And it's just this really solid, awesome story. I can't recommend it enough. It's available. They specifically tried to make it available at comic shops as much as possible. If you check the Improper Books website, improperbooks.com, you should be able to find the links you need to try and acquire it through their preferred means, as they have a list of different comics shops to try and get things from. And if there's not a comic shop near you on that list, then go to your local comic shop and be like, hey, I want to buy this thing, can you order it in? Because I want to give you money in exchange for it. Because that's how this stuff works. That's how I've started getting Batgirl. and being Puppycat and the Lumberjanes from my local, because they weren't going to stock any of them, which is really weird, because Boom are so big at this point. Why would you not stock more Boom than just Adventure Time? I don't get it. Although it could be because one of it's Boom, one of it's Boombox, one of it's Kaboom. I get that confused a lot, but at the same time, I digress. Branch out, try new comics. They're awesome. Dead Queen Detectives is a very fun, weird little series by Bevis Mouzon. By Bevis Mouzon, if I'm pronouncing that remotely correctly. And each issue reflects 4 queens who are now dead, solving very silly mysteries, such as who's eaten all the biscuits in the flat. And it's so cute. The art style is fantastic. Each queen gets their own art style of sorts, their own stylization. So many big poofy bits in the clothing and big ruffles. It's amazing. And these are these really simple, cute little narratives. But you do learn little bits and pieces about history and about what these queens did. There's a little bio section in the back as well. It's really, really cool. And so, yeah, another one that I'd say is totally safe for kids and is really, really good. So check it. As long as you are okay with references to witch burning and house burning and enemy burning. Because, god damn it, Tudors. God damn it. So when I met at the Dr. Geof table, actually, in a very awkward moment where I was like, I recognize you, but I have no idea what from. She just has such a defined hairstyle. Her hair is so cool. It's Lucy Bellwood, and I'd never met her before, and I'd never read her actual work, but I was intrigued to, and I couldn't see where I recognized her from at all. She did a guest comic for Ojo Sex Toy about rope bondage. Why does she know about rope bondage? Because she knows about knot tying. Why does she know about knot tying? Because her comic Baggy Wrinkles is all about her sailing tall ships and being an awesome person on the high seas. And it's such a cute autobio kind of comic with some commentaries on misnomers about ships, sailing, and pirates. And it's consistently unpredictable because each issue is so different. Well, you can read them for free online now at lucybellwood.com/baggy wrinkles. I don't even know how to describe it really properly. You know when someone goes on a big tangent about something they really like? I imagine you do because you're listening to one. It's like she's managed to capture that in comic form, and so it's just these pages bursting with enthusiasm and joy and surprise and learning and a love of ships and sailing and the sea, and it's really cool. And so I left those with Geof when I left Leeds after I read them all in one night, because this is a guy who draws ships, T-clippers attacking sea kraken. You know, it's very much in his wheelhouse, and he's texted me recently to say he loves them, and I'll pick them up back from him later. But that's super good. I also left in the Dead Queen Detectives because that's so in his wheelhouse as well. Something something tea, something something history, something something funny things happen. Yep, it's totally Geof's wheelhouse. This sounds like the weirdest recommendation ever, but seriously, Baggy Wrinkles, it's so cute. If you want a comic where you're not in the mood for like emotional highs or emotional lows, sometimes I read a thing, there's a comic I read where I genuinely have to take a break from it, called Best Friends Forever by Mickey Quinn. And honestly, I read it, I feel so sad and emotionally torn by these really good characters that I need something uplifting and just fun and simple and neat and lovely. And Baggy Wrinkles is loveliness incarnate. It uses pictures to tangibly have a big fan rant about something, but in a very low text kind of way. And it's really, really good. The reason I think she got in there is Lucy Bellwood draws and writes about tall ships the same way that Erica Moen writes and draws about sex toys. She just really likes them and wants to chat about them in a very jovial way, in a very fun way, in a very positive kind of way. And I love that. You can't go wrong with that. And the ultimate thing that happened at Thought Bubble, the most memorable, was so unexpected. Chloe C., who is the creator and writer and artist of Go Get a Roomie, this amazing online comic, go to rumi.com, about a poly/open relationshipy, depending at which point in the story you're at, girl who likes beer and boobs and company and hanging out and sex, and her friends of varying different queernesses, who just have an awesome, lovely time together and meet this super cool bar, which is apparently based on a real bar, which is crazy. And they're these twins who are sub on a dom, and they just have the best outfits ever, and I want to cosplay them both. I want to cosplay one, and then I take off the wig, and then the other one, because, oh my god, these designs. Richard and Ramona are so cool. Yeah, she was at the convention, just passing through, because she was holidaying in England, and she's not even from around here. She'd come quite a ways. And all credit goes to Mike that we met her at all, because he was like tweeting her and trying to check on where she was so he could buy a copy of the book. And we met and we hung out, and she saw the Tea Museum and she helped us pack it down, which is super cool. And we went out and we just hung out for a while, and she's just this super awesome person. She told us she had a new comic project. I was like, oh my god, that's awesome. And then literally the next day it was online, so it's like, oh my god, we had the tiniest preview. The new comic is called Headless Bliss, and while Go Get Rumi is based in the real world with some fantastical sexual adventures going on, and some fantastical characters, it's all very rooted in reality, and it's super cool that way. It's just really enjoyable. I'd say it's not safe for work because there's boobs, but there's not other genitals, so it's one of those things where it depends upon what your definition of not safe for work is. But Headless Bliss, this new one, is about demons and different worlds and portals and horns, so many horns, and a poodle. It's very early in the comic, so it's kind of hard to talk about, but I'm liking it. It's full color, it's gorgeous, the design, the character design is so cool. I really cannot wait for people to find it, love it, and cosplay it, because that's the thing about Rumi, is that I believe it has a decent fan base at this point, but everyone is very realistic, and so there's not a giant amount of cosplay challenge, and from a lot of cosplayers I know, it's about the challenge, the ridiculousness. That's why people cosplay anything from Soul Calibur. You wouldn't if you had any human sanity, but no, it's like, how do I make hair that big and ridiculous? How do I make a sword that big and still wieldable by a human? And Headless Bliss has these giant horns and super cool outfits and dresses, and it's really, really cool. I don't know how to describe a comic properly that is this early in its existence, but you can go to headlessbliss.com if you want to find out if you like it, and I'm liking it, so there. That's how I'll plug things. That's how it works. I trust in Chloe C, and I'm looking forward to where it's going. That's all the comics I got at Thought Bubble. Or brought to Thought Bubble for sailing purposes. Wait, almost. So, I got out a second time on Sunday, and I went straight to Natasha Allegri's table, and she was in the panel, and then I got out one more time at the very end when we were packing down, and I dashed off straight to the tent that she was in. More info on the tent later. I want to discuss what the actual convention was about, and how it was. And there was another queue, but it was all artists this time, like in the morning, but everyone was packing up, and so I was like, are we in the queue for Natasha? And they were like, yes, we've packed up already, we're ready, we're raring. And I was as well. And I gave her some... I was the very last person. And I gave her some gingerbread temp bots based upon her character Tempbot, which is now voiced by Hannah Hart. Oh my god. And I just said she had a really awesome series, and I'm so glad it exists, and I love it. And she was like, that's so cool. Thank you. Do you want a sketch? I was like, oh, yeah. I didn't even think that far ahead. I'm so tired. So she asked what I wanted to sketch of. I was like, I genuinely don't know. I think I said something magical princessy, and she drew her character Bee with bows in a massive amount of hair, and she just looks super good. And I've been hearing all day about how lovely she was, and it's so true. She's just this lovely, bubbly person, and you can totally believe she made Bean Puppy Cat. You can see the connection of lovely bubbliness there. It's fantastic. Totally recommend. Meet your heroes. But Harry, you might be asking, what is Thought Bubble? Where is it? Why was it so good to go to? I'll tell you. Thought Bubble is part of the Leeds International Comic Arts Festival. It is at the Royal Armouries Museum, which is one of my favourite museums. It's got free entry, and it's all about the history of conflict, but it's got amazing things like actors who reenact and tell stories of people like Joan of Arc. It's got falconry, it's got metal making workshops, there's funny coin pressy things. It's so many layers high, and if you look down the middle, or you look around the glass elevators you go up, and you're about as afraid of heights as me, then you'll feel like you're going to die horribly, and then you go back to the ground floor where most of the stuff is anyway, which is much better. But it was super cool to bring Mike there because there was so much period stuff, and, you know, we both love LARP, and fantasy, Dungeons & Dragons, roleplay, that kind of thing, so really cool to see that kind of stuff. And it takes up 2 of their buildings. It has done for several years now. Last year they tried a 3rd building, but it was a bit round a corner, and no one could really see it, and I know some people who traded in there and did not make much money or see many people, which is a shame. So this year, they took over, there was the Royal Army's Hall, there was the other hall on the other side, which is huge. Geof is always in the smaller hall, because there's this area in the middle that just has some support pillars, and we build the tea museum around it. The tea museum is a fake museum about tea. It's the travelling museum of the First Tea Company, which is fake tea-based military regiment. Like I said, the more I try and explain Geof, the more sense it ceases to make. We built that around there, and then had the tables at the front. It was super good. I think it's the Newgate Hall is the other one. That's a really big place, full of small independents, having a lot of tables. I know there's some big people they put at the back as well, so there's actually room for them to have queues and things, and that was really cool. And then, this year, to try and fix the 3rd room having nobody in it problem, they added this big tent marquee thing, a large series of gazebos interconnected, in the middle, like smack dab in this big open area where there's normally like a lot of queuing. And instead they had that there, so that everyone knew exactly where it was, which sounds ridiculous, but that was the only problem with the other hall. And so it totally worked, because everyone could see where this tent was, and the tent filled, and I could barely move in it, and it was brilliant. There's so much good stuff going on in there. And yeah, congrats to whoever came up with that idea, because it totally worked, and it fixed that problem, and that way they were able to have so many more people in attendance. And, oh man, but we went there, and we got other things that I don't own, that I don't have in this pile, because Mike has them. There was The Pride, which is a superhero comic series with LGBT superheroes who are trying to get more presence in the media, and it's super cool. And there's a bear who is a bear, like a bear who's a bear, like a gay bear who's also an animal bear, which is hilarious. And there's a superhero drag queen who's all about trans issues, and she's my favourite thing ever. Oh god, who else do we see? There was... I can't remember the name of it. It was something like Not the Damsel or Not a Princess. But it was about self-rescuing princesses. And it looked really good. And Mike has it. I need to borrow it from him so I can read it. And I will link it below. Because I cannot believe I have totally forgotten the name entirely. And I can't look it up. I feel like a total douche. But I will try and promote it because it was super cool. And the people behind the table were super cool. Ah dear. There's a ton of awesome prints that Mike got. Really good value print pack actually, and that covered quite a few Christmas presents. But it's also going to cover some of our living room walls, because that one with all the doctors, I'm totally keeping. It was a really funny idea actually. They've got really cool drawings of every single doctor, including Peter Capaldi, but they started it before Capaldi's series happened, before the costume was announced. So all we have Capaldi. You've got every doctor in their attire, every attire that you know of the doctor's wearing. And then you got Feckelson, you've got David Tennant, you've got Matt Smith, and then you've got Peter Capaldi's doctor in a pink fluffy dressing gown and pink fluffy rabbit slippers, holding a cup of tea and looking surly at being woken up too early. Because they didn't know anything other than eyebrows. Attack eyebrows. Other super cool things about that particular venue is that there is a bar inside the Royal Army's Hall, and there's usually people selling food there as well, little cakes and things. It was a really good idea. And the security was all done by a local, I think they're called the Hot Shots, a local rollerblading, roller derby team, who I asked one year, like, why have you got roller derby teams on the doors as bouncers? And she was like, well, do you think you can outrun a derby girl? I was like, nope. She's like, there you go. They will tackle you to the ground. It's a fantastic idea, and it's got a great feel of locality, and there's a lot of promotion for indie and smaller artists, and all the staff and volunteers come around so much and ask how we all are, and if we need anything, and how things are going, and offer us stuff, and it's so good. They look after people, and they care about their guests, and they're super nice. And I love it. I love it. Yeah, Thought Bubble, it's totally my favorite convention in the UK. They can give a toss about everyone who goes to it, attendee or guest, or even independent. And it's so good. And Kate, Tink, and Fiverr, I am so sorry you all missed it. Please come to the next one. Tink and Fiverr, I missed you guys. Come on. And yeah, that's that. I'm wanting to review pretty soon the actual Batgirl comics and Gotham Academy, and probably some of these other ones I picked up recently, including Edge of Spider-Verse Gwen Stacy, just because I love the design of this costume. I want to do it someday. But I honestly have not read any of the other Edge of Spider-Verse stuff, and I'm not remotely interested. But Gwen Stacy as Spider-Woman looks super cool. So why not? Sometimes it's just based on it being cool, and I've heard good things. Yeah. And I can see her potentially coming back for her own thing at some point because of the crazy popularity she's gotten, and I'm very happy about that. Support your local comic artists. Support your independents and online people. Just don't use ad blocker on people's websites, okay? Is there a comic you want me to talk about? Do you want to see anything else chatted? Leave comments below. Or, if you really, really want to help me continue making these things, because I'm doing 3 different part-time jobs and juggling them is hard, really hard, you can go to patreon.com that's patreon.com/MXHARRYBENTLEY. I'll just link that somewhere. Why am I doing archaic methods? Because I have set up a Patreon account for Sexy and Geeky, and it's to help fund me doing this and not losing my mind, or rather to give me more time to do it properly, because I want to do more stuff. I have no time. I want to have more time, and I want to do more stuff like this, and interviews and reviews and let's plays, and I would love to do in January Drag Race Season 7 riffs, but we'll have to see. Yeah. Which reminds me, we've recorded all the drag riffs for Season 6, so hopefully those should be up soon. I'm working on it, I really am, but editing takes forever, especially when it's a really long thing. This is over an hour now, so I don't know how long it'll turn out in the end. But yeah. If you like this and you want to listen to more, please consider donating to my Patreon account. As little as $1 is super good because it makes me feel like someone's actually listening, which is encouraging and will make me do more. Also, if you would like to listen to more super cool comic reviews, I'm only really doing this when I can afford to and when I can, so it's probably best you check out Less Than Live, Kate Leth's podcast. You can find at villagesoundcast.com. It's just Kate chatting about the comics that she makes and the comics that she reads and the conventions that she's gone to, and interviewing super cool people such as Babs Tarr and Drew Roush, and eventually, someday, I reckon Kieran Gillen will get on there, and it will just be like Dynasty with comics people. But with puns instead of hitting. So many puns. Seriously, follow Kieran Gillen on Twitter, and it's just him punning to death his fellow comic artists and writers. So much faux hatred flying. It's amazing. And I hope you have a lovely day, and thank you very much. Bye!